Aspirants. I'm Inkar from Inkar IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the 22nd February current affairs. The topic taken from the Delhi edition. The topic is G20. This topic comes under our GS to bilateral, regional, global groupings and agreements involving India or affecting India's interests. In this topic, we are going to discuss about the what are the major outcomes of G20 summit. That is, what is the climate finance commitment, taxation, global hunger, financial reform, energy transition, global governance and social inclusions. What are the inclusion and sustainable goal, and what are the Ukraine and Middle East conflicts, and what are the G20 impact on the global issue, how it's championing the food security, how it's reforming the multilateral forums, and how it's supporting the global south, what is the bilateral talks and strategic partnership, and what are the major challenges which is faced by the G20 groups, like global hunger, geopolitical rivalries, divergent economics, and also weak enforcement mechanism, inadequate representation. These are the things we are going to discuss by today's topic. First of all, why it is in the news. India and China have worked hard to preserve the G20 organization, said External Minister, that is S. Jaishankar, on Friday. This is a news today. First of all, the G20 meeting that concluded the Rio de Janeiro, which highlighted the core commitments such as taxation, billionaires, and energy transition, and support of the global climate initiative. Actually, the G20 was founded in the year of 1999 after Asian financial crisis to discuss the global economic and also financial issues. There is no permanent secretariat, and there is a 19 countries member, and the permanent guest is Spain. The G20 summit takes place annually, and also there is a 2023 presidency on India, one earth, one family, one future. These are the main thing about the G20. There is a major outcomes. What are the major outcomes? First of all, there is a climate finance commitment is a major outcome. The G20 reorganized the urgent need of the scale of climate finance from billion to trillion, but no concrete plan was established for the source of this funding. And also, leaders supposed COP29 in Azerbaijan are called enhanced financial to help to developing nation adapt the climate change through consensus on the financial mechanism. There is a taxation of the billionaires. That is a major achievement was the endorsement of the measure of ultra high net worth individual. That is, Brazil led the change with discussion about the global tax on the super rich through concern about the national sovereignty and tax principles were not fully resolved. Global Hunger and Poverty Alliance, that is a task force of the Global Alliance Against the Hunger and Poverty, that is proposed by the Brazil G20 presidency, aims to create a global alliance to mobilize resource, knowledge, and also the effective policies of the social technologies, mainly to reduce the hunger and poverty. There is a financial reform and MDB cooperation, that is a multilateral development bank to better address the global challenges, which is including the poverty and also the climate change. And also there is an energy transition of the fossil fuel. That is the main consideration. The summit highlighted the need of the investment in the renewable energy, clean technology, and did not reaffirm the previous COP28 commitment to phase out the fossil fuel subsidies, and also emphasize food loss and waste as part of the broader climate action. There is a global governance for the social inclusion, like G20 called for the reform of global governance to address the global inequalities. So this is the main thing, to combat hunger, poverty, inequality. Advocating the sustainable climate change action will definitely transit the stage of global governance reform. And also there is the inclusion of the sustainable development goal 18, that is a SDG 18, a new SDG focus on ethnic racial equality was officially included in the key elements of the G20 priorities. And also there's a Ukraine and Middle East conflicts, that the G20 will supported the initiative for the comprehensive just lasting the peace of Ukraine, emphasizing the diplomatic efforts with the members and advocating the peace. And there is a G20 summit. There is a main outcome is a climate finance, that commitment to scale up the climate finance for developing nation, taxation, global hunger alliance, financial reform, energy transition, global governance, and SDG 18 inclusion. These are the major outcome of our G20 summit. There is a many India's leadership with the G20 impact the global issue. First of all, it's championing the food security. India's prioritized the global food security, leveraging the expertise in agriculture and technology to mitigate the food crisis. Mainly, India wants to mitigate this food crisis through the agri and technology, through the millet initiative during the year of 2023 in the G20 summit, and also climate resilient crops, which highlight the global hunger, malnutrition, and also supported the program like enhancing food supply chains and also resilient agriculture practice. There is a reforming multilateral platform is one of the thing to reform the global multilateral platform, including the United Nations and financial inclusion like IMF, World Bank, and also during the presidency, that is a India called the greater inclusivity, pushing the representation to developed nation in the decision making process. And also there's a bilateral talks supporting the global south. India has emerged as a strong advocate of the global south, which amplifying the voice to the central issues such as sustainable development, and also it is called the voice of global south summit. India has ensured that need of priority developing the nation remain central of G20 as an agenda. And also there's a bilateral talks, that is a strategic partnership on the sideline of the 2024 G20 summit in Brazil. India held significant bilateral discussion countries like Australia, Norway, Indonesia, Portugal, Italy, and also UK and France. So for instance, the India-UK free trade agreement, the extradition issue was discussed India and UK and strengthened the economic and just judicial cooperation. And also there is a many challenges behind this G20 grouping. First of all, there is a global hunger, fuel, and also the fertilizer crisis. The G20 faces the challenges to address the global hunger. The Russia-Ukraine war will exacerbate the food and fertilizer shortages that impacting the developing nation, and also the significant gap to fulfill the commitment to food security. And also there is a geopolitical rivalries. There is a political tensions such as those between the United Nations and China on various geopolitical conflicts involving the Russia and Israel create a significant barriers to consensus. Russia-Ukraine was as sparked division within the G20 with conflicting views of the sanction of the neutrality, highlighted the recent US decision to allow Ukraine as a long-range weapon inside Russia. There is a divergent economic and political priorities is the main thing. The G20 encompasses a wide range of economic and highly developed nations like United Nations, Germany, and developing one like India and Brazil. There's a weak enforcement mechanism is one of the reasons that informal forum produces the ambitious plan and agreement, but the lack of legally binding structure often result in the disconnect between the community and execution, relying on the voluntary pledges from the member states. So these agreements of climate finance and debt restructuring often remain unimplemented due to the lack of accountability and also the framework, and also inadequate representation of the global south. The G20 includes the emerging economies like India, South Africa, Brazil. The smaller and less developed nation are not directly represented through this G20. That is a main gap between the inadequate representation. There is a way forward. First of all, we need to address the global hunger and fuel and fertilizer crisis by G20 reform nations will enhance the collaboration with international organization and also ensure the response of the food, fuel, and also fertilizer shortages, and also inclusive dialogues. The G20 should prioritize inclusive dialogues, should focus on the global goals, balancing the climate action and also economic growth. And also there is a diplomatic engagement. The G20 should encourage the diplomatic engagement and multilateral dialogues that focusing on the conflict resolution, strengthening the enforcement mechanism. The G20 should enforce the accountability framework and monitoring the bodies and independent assessment to ensure the climate finance and debt relief pledges are implemented, and enhance the representation of the global south. That is one of the things to broaden membership to include the global south nations, which definitely win the G20. Thank you so much.